Bert Sparrow here with a Fokker D7 walk-around video. And what I'd like to do is first tell you why this plane is the way it is, and then second, do a quick walk around, and third, tell you if I would have known then what I know now, what would I do differently. So a couple things. I'm about a 350-hour sport pilot. I'm 6'2", and I'm 260 now, but I've weighed 290 in the past, maybe even a year ago when I was initially flying this thing. This is the 24-inch wide standard D7, though I know now Robert can make you a 26 or 28-inch thing. I wish he would have done that back then. But anyway, so some guys have that, and since it's a 24-inch wide fuselage, that's one of the reasons why you see Volkswagen valve covers hanging out. And the really fat Fokkers, sometimes you don't. So this is loosely based on JASTA 18 or Squadron 18, which started to hit between April and June of 1917. And the red noses, obviously. And so I thought about what scheme I would make it, and I chose to not copy anybody else, but if I were in the theater at the time, what would I most likely do? And I knew I wanted a skull and crossbones, and I liked the red and white, not obviating the obvious fact that I'm an Alabama fan, but I just thought all that other kind of crazy stuff was a little too much. So it's the 80% scale. It's 604 pounds. I've got the Valley Engineering Volkswagen. They take a 2180cc engine and they increase the bore and the stroke on this one. So I'm 2332 cc's with a 2.0 redrive, and this prop is 8450. I had flown with a 9058. Interestingly, I got more torque equivalent, but I'm not getting the RPMs, and I'm still not getting the RPMs. You know, they say 3,600 to 4,000 would be your RPMs, and I'm getting, like I just flew here a minute ago, I'm at maybe 2,900 max. And so it's Friday, November 12th in Alabama. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. I think it's going to be 70 today. But so one of the things I wanted to mention was back in the spring of 2009, I was building a giant scale P-51, a model, and it was a balsa wood kit. And a friend of mine was building a Kolb light sport. I spent 1,000 hours on that airplane. I'll embed a picture here in the video. And he spent half that, and he had a flyable aircraft. And so I'm like, man, ribs are ribs and spars are spars, whether they're balsa and glued or riveted, huh? So that's when I started entertaining the idea of building. So I'm a first-time builder, and the only building that I had done was models. And so I fly giant scale aerobatic 3D, so I know a lot about aerodynamics and things like that. So, but again, I'm a first-time builder. It took me 3 years of building, over 4 years. I had really bad blood clots and some other stuff back in 2012. So 3 years of building over 4 years, and then a year ago when I thought I had finished, well actually I thought I finished it in September of 2014, and the air cooling of VW enclosed has been a challenge. And if any of you all have been following my posts, I've just had a devil of a time of cooling this engine, and I didn't want to lose it. Some guys are like, oh, I'll go fly it at 500 degrees, cylinder head temps and stuff, and then they wonder why they lose their engine. So I didn't want to do that. So let's just start right here. I've got, that's the prop. Here's this screen right here is a McMaster car screen, and I thought about making, you know, I need there, you can see my dipstick right down in there. Let me stick the camera and maybe y'all can see some baffling. There's the, I'll just show you around. Oil cooler back on the back wall. There's the baffling, and so forth. Now, one of the things that we found was initially when I first got this plane, there was just a lip right here. And this was completely open. I'll put a picture of how that was in right here. What we found was the prop blast would come through here and seal it off the air so the hot air could not escape. So what was happening, and we put a manometer, which is basically like a home aquarium water pressure thing, in here and below in the lower plenum, and there was no pressure differential, so the hot air was not getting out. So what I did was I fabricated this kind of belly pan here, and if you notice, and I'll take it off here in a minute and show you guys the underside there. But what this does is it seals off, and as the air, if you notice, there's 3 inches from the top there that allows the hot air to escape. And so the prop blast is not sealing anything off. The air can just exit down on the bottom. So that's why I have, and then this right here, let me comment on the side panels. If you're flying a D7, in my opinion, you got to have louvers. I mean, that's just the classic thing, and that was my opinion. And so the side panels that I got from Robert were too hard. They were 60-61, and you can go on YouTube and look up a Pullmax machine or something like that. And so what I found was a friend of mine, he made these little wood male and female things, and we laid the wood on top of that and beat it with a hammer. But this is soft 3000 aluminum, and see, somebody's flying real low. Anyway, these are not the side panels that came from Robert. They are soft ones that I was allowed to use a bead roller to strengthen them, and just cut out for the valve covers, and then I can just bang it and put the louvers in. But if you have a place in your town that has a Pullmax machine, they can do bigger ones, longer ones, shorters, and so forth. So let's see, up here, that's the stock machine guns that Robert provides, and I just got them up in there, and underneath here, in between the paint and that is, I got a little rubber piece, and then this is just a piece of 1/4 inch Lexan, just to do something. As far as down here, I've got my center axle wing off at this time, and I'm experimenting with what I want to do with that. That's actually, let's see, it's right over in there. All right. So, let me explain here real quick. These are standard Tracey O'Brien brakes, and when I got them in 2013, they were the standard ones. But you can see this is the anti-rotation thing on the axle. So as you engage the brakes, it keeps the axle from rolling. Then there's the bungees. Then there's I got that big washer from Fastenal. And then those little mounts to Tracey O'Brien brakes, these little things here, and these I got them from Chuck's Air Repair in Oklahoma for $100. He made those for me, and I'll be doing another video up because obviously it's bent. It's funny because I'm Mr. Low Time Sport Pilot, and I was greasing this thing in. I've got maybe 12 landings in it, and I was just greasing it in, and I don't even know the stall speed yet. But anyway, I let my tech counselor fly it, who it was 20,000 hours. He came in and he freaking bounced it over there on the edge of the runway, and he bounced it and went up 10 feet and bent my dang landing gear. So anyway, I'm going to be working on that. So let's see. Okay, my gap seals down here. These are essentially 20 thousandths, like a 6-foot piece of 20 thousandths. And it's just a vinyl checkered graphic that a friend of mine put on there. And then this is just rubber U-channel, and and I just put it in place, and I think it looks kind of cool like that. I've debated on putting the ones up above like that too, and maybe I'll do that. One of the things why you see is why do I have two copper Nyko press swedge things? And I always told myself, if I ever had to redo my wings, they only cost a freaking quarter, so why not put another one on there just for extra safety, though it's not needed. It doesn't weigh anything. So so there's that. So let's see. There's some access panels. I chose to do access panels just because I wanted to, because I wanted the challenge of using nut plates and squeezing rivets and things like that. And so I'll show you one here in a second. Here's, let's see, more access plates. Okay, and let's see. There's that one. That aileron comes right on out of there. I just made this. This is a little Home Depot flashing. Gutter flashing with an Adele clamp, and it just kind of holds it right up like that. Okay, and let me let's see, I think I got painted a German cross underneath there, and I went yin yang on the wheel, and actually when it spins it looks pretty cool. Let's go over here and get this access panel real quick and show you more about that. The reason I chose access panels was just because I wanted to do it as a builder. And all this is just kind of a you take a cardboard piece and you just make it to how you want it. And let's see, it just fits on there. And what's down here on this side, people have asked me this before. Well, tied to each rib there is I call it a picture frame, and it's basically just some aluminum right here like that, and you bend the edges over to strengthen it, and then you just drill it and put a nut plate on the other side, and you do it while you're building it, and then this just fits on there, and it looks, to me, I like it. And let's see. That's what I've got up on the top wing. I did what Robert provided. I did the Serrated Edge. I think the Serrated Edge is a classic hallmark of mini D7s, and it gives it that just real kind of evil look, like a bat or something. And so what I have here is the copper tubing that he provided, and you bend it, but there's like liquid steel or something like that that turns hard. So even though I clamped it around, I ended up putting a ball of liquid steel right in there. Let's see, I don't know if I can fit the camera down in. Let's see. Do that. Well, that gives you an inside look of what's going on in the wing. One of the things you may notice is it looks like some white it looks like some white PVC is in there, and what that is it just holds the aileron cable in place the whole way out, and so it's kind of nice that you don't have to worry about how you're going to thread it, because you just put it down in there and it just comes right in and out right in the right place. And then these I've got a handle here. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different guys to do that. Here's just straight up gap seal. Now this is actually gutter flashing from Home Depot, and I painted it flat black, and it's real thin. And then I put this is just a U-channel that I put plyo bond on it to give it. And so when you actually come back, you get that kind of thing. So let's see. In here, that's kind of a neat little thing I found in England somewhere. I put this seat in a lot of different ways. I just kind of got in there and sat, and make sure you get your plane level when you do that, because some people sit it and go, oh my gosh, I'm reclining so far back, but that's because they're sitting in a tail dragger. But let's see. This is pretty standard. This is my theory here was airplane information up here and engine information down here. And so there you go. And so that's that. So in this cockpit combing here is exactly like everybody else does. You have your longeron tube, you cut a garden hose in half, you lay that on top, then the standard Home Depot or Lowe's pipe insulation. And then I went to like the local thrift store and got some fake leather pants and just cut them like 4 inches wide. And then I went to Michael's and got me my own little thing, and I learned how to tap those in place, and I did that myself all the way around. And one thing on the instrument panel, right behind there is the thin aluminum instrument panel that Robert provides, but it only goes to right here. So you only have that much room to do anything. So I extended this 1/4 inch, and that color is pecan, by the way. I extended this down and I bolted it in place, but it gave me an extra. Go back here. You can see inside there. And obviously, being 6'2", I didn't want to. Like if you look at some of these early D7 flights, if you look at the pivot point of the stick all the way back to the aft, you have to put the seat pretty high. Well, I didn't want to look like a frickin' 7-foot ogre flying. If you look at Harvey Cleveland, who's 6'4", flying Butch Whitlock's maiden voyage, his head is so frickin' far up above, but Butch was 5'6", so the plane worked. But so I just wanted to make sure that when I sat in the plane, that the side right here hit me just at the bottom of the neck or the top of my shoulder, which is how the classic planes look. But let's see, what else am I forgetting here? Anything in there? No. There you go. That's the sight picture right there. Okay, more on the bell crank here in a minute. Let's see. I have a okay, this right here. That's actually painted on. I had a guy paint that on. I think he did a great job. I have a, you could use that, but I ended up just picking it up from the tail. Here's an access point that I need to get to key points here. Let's see. It's our friendly Civil Air Patrol. Anyway, I got this from Jegs, and it was $10. But you can see inside here. Okay, and I can get to the key access things that I need. Okay, here's my stab and all this back here. Now I have the tail wheel that Robert provided, and so I've always well, I'll comment more about that, but more of the same right over here. Okay, now let me take this off and show you something here. Okay, I went with a bell crank because I had to, that pivot point right there to this pivot point right there, I had to go really close under the seat. So I've got a bell crank. Let me show you that we just fabricated right there. Hopefully you can see that. Pitot tube just mounted right here, and it goes to just a little vinyl tube right there through the wing, twist tied to the aileron, the little PVC pipe, and then it comes up through the wing right there and comes up back. I've got a Napa Auto Parts right inside there. I've got a Napa Auto Parts circuit breaker bay. So February of last year, I go to take off on my first flight, and I gave it full throttle. What I wanted to do was stay in ground effect. Check the ailerons, tap the throttle, chop it, or tap the rudder, chop the throttle, and then just land. But full throttle within 30 feet, I was climbing at over 1,000 feet per minute. And it was a cold day. And I was giving it as much forward stick as I possibly could. Luckily, I landed it safely, not knowing what the stall speed and approach speed, none of that. But there was clearly a problem. So I had an aggressive climb tendency. So at the time, I was 0 degrees engine down thrust. The wing incidence was 2.5 degrees positive per the plans. And my horizontal stab was 0. Matched the longeron. So I put 5 degrees down thrust in the engine. Didn't solve the problem. About this time, Sam up in North Alabama was having the same problem. Fortunately, he's retired and he can work on it much quickly than I can. I'm still working out at Maxwell Air Force Base. So back on July 4th weekend, I have that much down thrust in. I cut the fabric around the tail, and I make the tail modification to get my horizontal stab from 0 to 3 degrees positive, and to see if that will rectify the climb problem. It helped, but it was scary because if I ever lose the engine, where's all that down thrust pulling me along? About that time, Robert calls me and he says he's apologetic that he had made a mistake in the plans. The wings need to be minus 2.5 instead of positive 2.5. That explains everything. In the meantime, I've adjusted my engine mount and my stab, and so what to do? And so I ended up sucking it up, taking it all apart. What a pain. To try to get my wings to, since my stab was at 0 degrees, or 3 degrees positive now, I wasn't going to go in there and take my stab out. I've already fixed it, gusseted it, painted it. So I'm going to suck it up, and I'm going to use the weldment that Robert provided me. We're going to get my wings to 0 degrees, upper and bottom. And I brought my engine back to 0. So all these freaking numbers, you're like, what? So where I am now, what works for me is engine at 0 degrees, my wings are at 0 degrees, and my stab, horizontal stab, is at 3 degrees positive. That works for me. And it would work for you, and I think that's close to where Sam in Huntsville is too. So I'll show you some close-up pictures of the weldment. It allowed me, because the aft carry-through spar, right above that is my elevator push tube, and a ½ an inch above that's the bottom of my seat. So I can't go raising my aft carry-through spar 1 inch. So I use Robert's weldment. But one of the things I wanted to show you was I pulled some stuff up to give you a close inside of the bathroom. Okay, I wanted to show you a little bit about here. Here's the the top panel. I've got a structure that goes, I've got a little tab that I welded on right there, but I've got a structure that goes all the way around like that, and then it goes up and over like that. So it allows me to have some structure to hook everything up to. Of course, this fits like that, and those are just recessed, and a little recessed thing holds it in place like that. And once that's in place, I can come back with this, and this fits over it, and then there's places to screw it in. But what I wanted to show you was, here's the baffling that we fabricated for an upper plenum around mid-cylinder. You can see back here we borrowed an idea from the RV community where the mufflers come out, and here's a ball joint here, and right down here they just kind of hang and they can vibrate, and so we've got that. Thanks RV community. And here's how everything looks back here, like that.
Let's see. Maybe this can help shine some light on anything. And the oil cooler mounted up against the back wall.
The last thing I want to talk about is what would I do different? If I knew then what I know now, what would I do different? The first thing is, this is Seconite I got from Robert. You get the glue and the fabric at a pretty good price. It's pretty easy, straightforward. But if I had it all to do over again, I'd do that new German stuff called Oratex. It's so much lighter and strong, and you know, I've got 6 coats of paint on this. It's so much lighter. It goes on quicker. I could probably cover this in less than a week instead of a much longer process. So that's number one. Number two, probably would not have gone the Volkswagen route. Back when I bought my engine in 2013, they didn't have the Aero Momentum in North Florida, but those guys have a Geo or a Suzuki 3-cylinder, water-cooled, and it's very narrow. Granted, it weighs, I think, 50 pounds more. You factor that in, but it's water-cooled. I wouldn't have all these cooling, baffling issues that I've been struggling with for the last year. And from what I understand, you know, for $5,000, you get the engine and a redrive. You have to go out and get your own prop. But so that's number one. That's number two. So fabric one, that too. The other thing I wish I would have done is, if I would have stayed VW, I wish I would have paid more attention to how narrow the CG is on this plane. Meaning, I sure wish I could move that engine out 2 or 3 inches. At this point, yeah, I could do some spacers, but all of the connections, all of the side panels, all the everything to move everything forward is something that I don't want to do. I wish in hindsight I would have moved that, I would have talked to some folks and found out how much they weigh and how long their spacers were. So that's it. And then the last thing is, I wish on my side, the side of the fuselage, I wish I would have put a foot access panel to step in. If you look at my pictures on the photo album, I put a hard spot on the wing with some coated mahogany 12-inch block. So I've got that there. I wish that I would have put a, now the real Fokkers had that little foot step, but that induces a twist, and you don't want a twist. They didn't care back then because the airplanes weren't going to need to be too long. So I wish I would have done that. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it. Hope anybody finds this useful. If not, I'll just delete it. But thanks, and roll time.